Stanley Cup craze is the perfect example of smart branding plus consumer psychology at work. In today's episode, we're diving into why people buy Stanley Cups and the whole marketing strategy behind it. I know this is a little delayed considering Stanley Cups were really big for a while and now they're not as big, but it's really interesting how this brand kind of went from not super popular amongst the moms or millennial women generation and how its sales have skyrocketed since then. So let's tap right into the psychological drivers. So kicking it off, number one, I would say status and belonging is a huge aspect that the Stanley Cup brand has really dove into. Now, this means having that viral cup was like a sign. You're in the know, you're a part of the trend. And it also gave people that validation when others noticed it. So if you notice the handle on the Stanley Cup, it's very recognizable by the shape, the handle, the style. You wanted a real one. And that was something that I feel like people carried around like a designer bag, like a status symbol. There also was the scarcity and urgency aspect. So they really tapped into that with limited edition drops, colors that sold out quickly. It really helped to create that FOMO and to push that impulse buying. It also was marketed as a wellness and hydration girl essential, so it became a little bit of that identity and lifestyle. And a lot of people do that when it comes to like being like a gym girl or like a workout girl or like doing all these things to fall into one of these buckets of like a lifestyle aesthetic. And you know, to each their own, everybody has their own little thing, but I think that using this really helped to push that impulse buying. They also tapped into identity and lifestyle and emotional triggers. So when you tap into that nostalgia, Stanley's actually been around since 1913. It has a very classic feel to it. The logo is very classic and not a lot has really changed too much in terms of what they do. They still sell the water bottles. So that rebrand made it into more of a trendy and fun aspect while still keeping that nostalgia piece. So if you're a brand, let's really take a second to look into the marketing strategies that Stanley has used. So Stanley has really been strategic about influencer partnerships. You have probably seen every single influencer that you know that does fashion or lifestyle or mom blogs or whatever it may be, using them and sharing about them in like a buy guide. So this is like a group of influencers that have really pushed the Stanley Cup to their community. It became like an aesthetic in their cars, like now they all had it in their cup holders. And it really tapped into everyday moms, wellness influencers, lifestyle creators, and really stayed away from just the athletes or the outdoorsy types that would typically purchase a reusable water bottle like this one. They really focus on community building. So you might have seen Stanley Cup in Facebook groups, TikTok, Stanley Girl content, created a sense of like, again, that community, and owning one helped people feel like they had a sense of belonging. They looked into product design and aesthetic. So having that handle made it a little bit easier for people to carry this big cup around. A lot of people were really tapping into that, making sure that they're getting all their water throughout the day. And that aesthetic and that functionality was very key, I think, in a lot of the purchasing decisions as to why you would just buy a different water bottle. Those limited drops and the seasonal shades continued to create that sense of urgency, and also it helped it feel like a collectible. Like when people saw a different Stanley Cup color come out, they would like run out to Target and get it. There were women that would go crazy waiting in line just to make sure they could go buy their 2 Stanley Cups, because they used to have like a limit and the signs in Target. And it was kind of like one of those sneaker drops or a makeup collab that was like super hot and people wanted to buy it right away. And then there was a big shift in their target audience. So this I think is huge and probably the most important point when it comes to marketing. These were originally marketed to outdoorsmen. And if you think about it, who's making a lot of the purchasing decisions now? It's a lot of women. So it's a lot of Gen Z, millennials, who encourage that mix of functionality, but also aesthetic. So they wanted a water bottle to make sure they're getting all of their water in for the day, but they also wanted to make sure that they were fitting their aesthetic and their vibe and their Instagram stories, so to speak. So they also really looked at the target demographic and then used that to create content that aligned with it. No longer were they marketing to the outdoorsmen, they were marketing to these women that were making purchasing decisions and were interested in a water bottle that was functional, cute, and also offered that limited release information. So next, UGC. They really looked into user-generated content, so viral TikToks like Stanley Cup was a huge one that we really saw build its legend and its trustworthiness. It wasn't just a water cup, it became a status symbol, a community badge, and a lifestyle accessory. This was wrapped up in smart scarcity marketing and influencer-driven demand. If you're a brand looking to maybe use some of these tactics, they're super easy to use. I mean, maybe just doing some things like limited time drops, really evaluating who your target audience is and if it's the right target audience for you, and also tailoring your content to the correct target audience. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and maybe if you are a Stanley Cup purchaser, now you kind of know why. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. I hope you guys did too. In the meantime, I'd appreciate it if you rated and reviewed, and I would catch up with you all next week. In the meantime, keep creating a business that sticks.